pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome everyone. My name is Jason Petrosco. I'm the president of Citizens for Healthy Jessup. I'd like to welcome you all tonight. Presenting tonight's debate as part of our mission to educate our community. I hope that will give everyone an opportunity to know about the people who want to represent us. If you're not a member, tonight would be a good night. We have some people sitting in the back who can tell you about all the things we do. Before turning these over to the moderator, I want to say a few quick thank yous. First, thank you to Eagle Host Company for stepping in and agreeing us to have this great venue for tonight. I'd like to thank Dave Bohman from WNEP for once again stepping in to be our moderator. He does a great job. Our timekeeper tonight, I'd like to say thank you to Bill Falconis, who's the chair of the Lackawanna County Green Party. In the back, I'd like to say thanks to Tim Siemens, who's a Citizens for Healthy Jessup member who's taping tonight. Within a few days, the debate will be on our YouTube page, and we'll have links out there on our Facebook page, and we'll share them with the candidates so everyone has an opportunity to view it. I'd like to also thank, most importantly, the candidates who agreed to come here tonight and answer our questions. The Democratic candidate for the 112, Kyle Mullins. And the Republican candidate for the 112, Ernest Lemoncelli. It takes a lot of courage to run for office, so as the debate begins, the only thing we ask is that no matter what side of an issue you're on, we ask you to give respect to these candidates so that they each have a fair opportunity to share with us where they stand on the issues. Thank you very much, and turn things over to Dave Bohman so we can begin.
Jason, thank you. A quick remark in the beginning. I was honored enough to be the moderator of the Democratic Party primary candidates forum, and two things that struck me. Number one, three things actually. The questions were terrific. The 5 candidates running on the Democratic side had very good answers and were very thoughtful. And the people who came out to see and watch that debate were very respectful. The reality is we don't see that as much as we should in American politics this day. And I think these individual debates like this are actually a shining example of what democracy is all about. And you're a part of it, so thank you for coming. First of all, the audience rules, and I bumped number 3 to number 1 at the request of the candidate who happened to be right looking at the rules. First and foremost, please turn off all cell phones and other electronic gadgets that emit noise. At least put it on vibrate. I will be presenting all the questions at the beginning. We ask no talking when the debate begins so we can hear the candidates and their entire answers. Be considerate of the line of sight of each other's. When you want to do a standing ovation. No smoking in the building. Flash photography is a no-no, not permitted. We don't want to distract the presenters. They have a lot of important things to say tonight. Be respectful of Eagle Host Company's property. Make sure you put your trash in the trash bins and all the other appropriate containers. Hold applause until the conclusion of the debate. We want to ensure each candidate can be heard throughout the evening. If at any time an audience member is out of control, and please let's not let that happen tonight, but that person will be escorted off the premises. Here are the rules now. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to present a prepared opening statement to the audience. The coin toss has been done. Mr. Mullins will have the first question directed to him, and Mr. Lemoncelli will have the final presentation at the end. But following the opening statements, I'll begin asking the prepared question. The candidate will be allowed to respond first. That'll rotate back and forth with each question. Each candidate has 3 minutes to answer each question. After each candidate is given the 3-minute reply, each candidate has a chance of a 1-minute rebuttal. The timekeeper over here is going to monitor the time closely for each and signal the candidate when he has 30 seconds. It'll be done with just a big 3. If time permits, there'll be a section at the end of the debate for audience questions, and they'll be solicited at the door and screened for appropriate content by a representative of Citizens for Healthy Jessup. No questions containing objectionable content will be put forward. And after all the questions have been answered, each candidate has the opportunity of a 5-minute closing statement. Whoever went second during the opening statement, that will be Mr. Lemoncelli, will also get to have the final word. I think the rules are pretty clear, and we're going to begin with a question, Mr. Mullins. According to recent U.S. news data, Pennsylvania currently ranks 44th of 50 states. Oh, and that's a teaser of the first question. I just ran a stop sign. Anyway, Mr. Mullins, you have the first opening statement, and again, keep within eye contact of the timekeepers you get toward the end. Thank you.
Certainly, I'll keep it brief and get to that important question. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out and playing important, the most ground level and important role in our democracy, and for being an informed citizen. Nothing is more important on either side of campaigns and the issues. So my hat's off to everyone for making it out tonight. I appreciate the Citizens for Healthy Jessup organizing this, as they will do a wonderful job. Moderator Dave Bohman, the Eagle Host Company, my family, and volunteers, and my wife Lauren Connor, who are my inspiration for so much in life, including this run for office. And of course, I've got to thank my opponent, Ernest Lemoncelli, for agreeing to, first of all, put me in this happy ring. It's not an easy thing to do, as you mentioned earlier. And I appreciate our willingness to come out and exchange ideas and see where we agree and disagree. So I look forward to this discussion. Thank you.
Unfortunately, mine won't be so brief. I'd like to thank the Citizens for Healthy Jessup for organizing this debate. I'd like to thank Dave for moderating and our timekeeper as well. And I'd like to thank Kyle for showing up at this debate. I ran 2 years ago in there, and my opponent wouldn't show his face for good reason. I was born in Scranton State General Hospital, where the Gino Murley Center is now. Grew up in Iowa. I went to Scranton Prep, where I graduated, and went to Bloomsburg University. There I got a teaching degree and returned to my loving and supportive family, only to find out there were no jobs, no teachers' jobs. I applied to various factories, nothing new, looked pretty bleak. And then a friend of mine, who was my college roommate for 4 years, John Sobel from Jessup, decided he'd go to California to look for work, but he stopped in Houston on the way, visiting another friend. And he called me and he said, "Aaron, you gotta come down here, you're not gonna believe it. I had 5 interviews and 3 offers, and they're good jobs." I said, "Well, John, send me the newspaper." Well, about a week later, this roll of paper came in that was as big as our Sunday paper, and it was only the want ads. I looked in there and I knew I had to go to Texas. So I got in a car a month later with another friend of mine, Joe Sylvester from Dunmore, and we went to Texas. There I began a career in industrial electronic sales. I called on world-class engineering and manufacturing companies. I called on design engineers, purchasing agents, quality control departments, and manufacturing, and on the manufacturing floor. Some of my clients were IBM, Motorola, Lockheed, NASA, and various contract manufacturers. I identified problems and provided solutions. I did what I said I was going to do, and I didn't promise anything that I couldn't do. And I was successful. In high school, I learned 3 powerful Latin words. Alitura magis. And translated, that means born for a higher purpose. As a young adult, I was asked to think about those words and how do they apply to me. And I became convinced that I had a higher purpose. I just didn't know what it was. And as I thought more about it, I was convinced that all my classmates had a higher purpose as well. And my parents too. And everybody that I met had a higher purpose. All of you have a higher purpose. Many of our ancestors came here little to nothing. They worked hard. Maybe they got a little help from family and friends, but they came here and worked, and they had a higher purpose. Whether they knew it or not, whether that phrase ever entered their mind, but they had a higher purpose. And they did a good job. They built what we have today. And so now, we have to have the idea that we are all the higher purpose. We no longer can accept corruption and waste. We can't say this is how it's done in the valley. We can't have any politicians feathering their own nests any longer. Our politicians and governments, the government agents, need to have a purpose, a higher purpose, and that higher purpose needs to be us. Our best interests and our political insiders and our special interests need to be second at best. Tonight you'll see two candidates here with different views, different experiences. One with real-world experience, the other one with Harrisburg experience. One with deep political connections and one with none. One that has had a successful career and is not seeking another one. And one that wants a career. There's only one candidate here tonight with real-world experience and a higher purpose, and a higher to bring change to this valley. There's only one candidate here tonight that will represent your interest above the party, above special interests, and above being reelected. I am beholden to no one except you, the people of this district. I humbly ask for your vote in November.
Thank you. And now the first question. According to recent U.S. News data, Pennsylvania currently ranks 44th out of 50 states for quality of life. That includes poor rankings for community engagement, social support, and pollution standards. What will you do as a state representative to improve these standards for Pennsylvania residents? Mr. Mullins.
Thank you very much for the question. I get tired of hearing how Pennsylvania lacks so far down in so many columns, in so many categories, and it's high time to change that. First of all, it's critically important that we improve our business climate here. We certainly need to reduce our corporate net income tax rate, which is not the most liberal of ideas. I believe we are disincenting businesses from locating here, and to that end, to ensure its revenue neutrality and fairness to Pennsylvania, we should phase in the closure of the Delaware loophole. Make sure that Pennsylvania is getting its fair share of its corporate from its corporate community. As it relates to pollution, we accept far too much out-of-state trash, and that is something that I know Senator Casey is working on mightily at the federal level, and it's something that we must address with complementary state legislation. There are a host of things we can do as it relates to cleaning our environment and playing a part in a cleaner energy, a cleaner world. We're seeing these storms wreaking havoc with more and more power. And I don't believe it when people say that we don't have a human role in that. So I'm very bullish on the things we can be doing better here in Pennsylvania.
Mr. Lemoncelli.
How bad is that? 44 out of 50. Who's lower? Mississippi. It's astounding. And yes, we are the largest receiver of garbage in the country, the state of Pennsylvania. I think that's a disaster. We need to have legislation like the legislation that Casey has proposed to the legislation he proposed is about recycling, that we have to have a certain percentage of recycled material, because now we're getting everything. We've gotten garbage from Puerto Rico, believe it or not. So we need to get after that. And I really like what Pat Clark is doing with the Friends of Lackawanna. supporting that organization to fight the dump, the landfill. It's interesting, we've gone from landfill to mountain. If that expansion happens, it'll be the highest elevation in the county. I mean, come on. And then you're going to tell us, whichever of us go to Harrisburg, to bring jobs? Well, hey, come on. We have this big dump. Don't you want to live near this? We have to be smarter. We, as a population, need to hold our elected officials to a higher standard. We can no longer allow the local government, the local politicians, the state politicians to do whatever they want and not for us. It's out of control. We need local representation and local thought. We all need to get after these people and tell them what we want. We don't want the Delaware loophole. We have the Jessup power plant. They are in a KOZ zone, a tax-free zone, and it's a Delaware corporation. They're paying nothing. They're not paying state tax, they're not paying local tax. We need to not allow that. And it happens at the local level. I will try to bring jobs here, and I think that's going to make one of the biggest differences to our area and to the state. And government does not create jobs. Don't think that. I'm planning to steal them from other places. Because we have a lot of good things here. We need to have people come here and see what we have. We need to contact them to do it. There's probably some fishermen and hunters out in the audience. Do you sit in your house and wait for the fish to come? No. You don't wait for the deer to walk up on your porch. Well, we can't wait for the job creators to come here on their own. They're not going to. We need to go out and look for them, and we need to drag them here and say, look, this is a good place. We have good people. And we need the training. So I have to wrap it up. Thank you.
Mr. Mullins, would you like a rebuttal? Okay, let's get to the next question. With serious allegations and ongoing criminal investigations into the Lackawanna County Prison and the Scranton School District, as well as serious questions involving the Scranton Sewer Authority sale and controversial development projects that have driven wedges between citizens and their local representatives, how can you, as a state representative, change the current culture of distrust for government officials in Lackawanna County? Mr. Lemoncelli.
Wow, this is like a continuation of what I was just saying. We have people in the prison that are criminals. The sewer authority, I would say they're criminals, but boy, it's pretty bizarre. And the school district, I think a number of those folks need to be introduced to our penal system. This is a situation where there's no involvement until there's a problem. These people didn't start putting 114 tires on one garbage truck yesterday. This has been going on for decades. And now that we don't have any money for the children, everybody's upset. Where were you 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago? Does anybody attend? I know Marie here attends all of the Scranton council meetings. And she found that Basilica wasn't paying tax on a building that should have been paid for 2 years. That's community involvement. We need more of you as community involved in the community. As an official of the state, I will uphold the highest standards of honesty and transparency, and the door is open. I have absolutely nothing to hide. I won't lie to you. I won't tell you a story. And if I tell you what you don't like to hear, it's because it is what it is. But we need more involvement at every level to get this corruption under control, and we need to prosecute instead of just slapping people's hands.
Mr. Mullins.
Thank you very much. As it relates to the corruption and questionable dealings at the municipal level, first, I think it's critical that the state legislators should be supportive of removing any barriers that our Attorney General might have in investigating and prosecuting these cases. So that's first and foremost. Second of all, I've had a bunch of real-world experience as it relates to proposing legislation, drafting legislation in my role over the last 8 years as Senator Blake's legislative director. In the wake of the Harrisburg debt debacle, we quickly drafted a whole package of bills in a bipartisan way that we are still pushing that rock up the hill, but I'm confident it will get passed because it's the right thing to do to ensure that these irresponsible debt deals at the local level have greater bonding requirements and state oversight and transparency, so you, the taxpayer, know just exactly what's going on and what sort of credit card debt's being run out by your local government.
Mr. Lemoncelli, do you care to rebut?
No.
Next question for Mr. Mullins. The proposed expansion of the Keystone Sanitary Landfill remains an unresolved issue. This is a two-part question. Number one, are you for or against the expansion? And number two, how do you believe a state representative should serve his or her constituents on local issues like this?
First and foremost, it's important that I'm very clear here. I am opposed to the expansion currently at hand. So that's question number one. Question number two, your state representative should be clear with you, should be updating you regularly, make sure his or her door is always open to those concerns, meets regularly with citizen groups like Friends of Lackawanna, to make sure that we are constantly informed by those movements. It's also critically important. What people always ask, well, what can you do as a state rep? We don't vote on whether your landfills expand or not. What we can and should be doing is amending Act 101, our state's recycling program, to ensure that we are keeping more and more waste, more recyclable materials out of landfills to begin with. I mentioned earlier my firm support for the federal legislation dealing with the Interstate Commerce Clause to make sure we're keeping out-of-state trash out, thus not needing nearly as many or regular updates or reapplications for expansion. We need a baseline and recurring health and environmental studies and tests paid for by the applicant and done in a way that is transparent and in a way that fully informs our citizenry of the health effects and the environmental effects of a landfill that is front and center, right in the middle of the 112th district. And I also believe in shortening the time windows that expansions are permitted.
Mr. Lemoncelli.
I oppose the expansion of the landfill. The landfill takes in 7,500 tons of garbage a day. That's an enormous amount of garbage. I can see that thing from my office window. And you know what? It changes shape. 1 minute, well, not 1 minute,